A few months ago, I made a video about the Corvette as a daily driver. And in that video, I claimed that you could use it as a daily driver depending on how hardcore you are. But for the most part, up until this point, all of my videos have given the Corvette nothing but praise. Now, after owning my C8 for 7 months and using it as a daily driver, I've noticed some things that I don't particularly care for. So is the honeymoon over? Well, the best way for me to answer that question is with a little analogy that we're all familiar with. The dating game. You knew from the moment you saw her that she was the one. It was love at first sight. So you mustered up the courage to ask her out. You go on numerous dates, each one better than the previous. There's no denying that the chemistry is real. You're having the time of your lives, and you do everything together. You become inseparable. She even introduces you to her family, her brothers and sisters, as well as her parents, and they all love you. You come to the conclusion that you want to spend the rest of your lives together. So you move in together and ultimately, you get married. It's a fairy tale love story for the ages. You're happily ever after. But then the unexpected happens. All is not perfect in paradise. You start to notice things that you didn't see before. The sort of things that you only see when you live together. They seem small at first, but then the little things turn into much bigger things. Conflicts over money and bills. Disagreements turn into full-blown heated arguments. You begin to second-guess your decisions. Did you commit too early? How did we get to this place? Where did it all go wrong? So 7 months in, is the honeymoon over? Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean I'm ready for a divorce either. I stand by my original assessment that you can daily drive a C8 Corvette depending on your lifestyle, and I still consider it to be the best car that I've ever owned. But with that said, here are a list of things that I dislike about my C8 now that the honeymoon is officially over. The first gripe I have with this car deals with something you have to deal with every single time you want to use it. Getting in and out of it. I can't count how many times I hit my head on the roof getting into the car. You also have to enter butt first so that you can maneuver around the deep side bolsters that protrude forward, blocking you from sliding into the seat from what would be a normal angle of approach for any other vehicle. Getting out of the car is even worse. On the driver's side, you can use the steering wheel as leverage to help pull you out. But on the passenger side, you're on your own. You better have good core strength to lift yourself out of this one. Another thing I'm not crazy about is this massive center console. It was pretty cool at first because it gave you Top Gun vibes, felt like you were sitting in the cockpit of a fighter jet. But now, it's just kind of in the way. And it also makes the cabin feel slightly claustrophobic. It also makes it hard to put or take things out of the passenger seat. Plus, on top of that, there are way too many buttons, which makes it hard to find what you want, so you have to take your eyes off the road. And if you do that too often, you'll probably trigger the safety warning system. The next issue I have with the C8 is also related to this big center console. There's no option to have a manual transmission. Now, from what I understand, this center console is a key structural component to the chassis, so it has to be there, but at the expense of being able to offer a manual. That's a crying shame. I'm not knocking this dual clutch transmission by any means. It's actually fantastic. The shifts are lightning quick whether you're going up or down through the gearbox and at any speed. But I can't just help but imagine how great this car would be, especially combined with that engine, if I could just simply roll my own gears. Moving on to the next thing on my list, which would be the exhaust. Now you can adjust the loudness of the exhaust through the menu systems. And when you first start the car, it starts off in tour mode, which is one of the quietest settings. But even in tour mode, cold starts are ridiculously loud. Sometimes you just want to be a little bit low-key and incognito, especially in the morning. Road noise is another big issue because of the big, wide tires. There's no easy fix for this, so you just kind of have to grin and bear it. It gets worse depending on the road surface too. Blacktop paved surfaces seem to be the quietest, while concrete type surfaces seem to be the worst. Sometimes you can barely even hold a conversation, it's so noisy. The last major issue on my list has already been resolved, that being the massive blind spots around the car. Even with the rear view camera and blind spot detection system, I still wasn't always confident that the coast is clear to change lanes. So I wound up installing blind spot mirrors to fill in the gaps to put my mind at ease. Well, that's my list, but I do have a few honorable mentions that are noteworthy, but not bad enough to go into any real detail on. The first one being that the cell phone charger is in a weird spot. It's pretty awkward to get to from any angle in the cabin. Next, the gas mileage is pretty low. No matter how slowly you drive, you will never get far above 20 miles per gallon in mixed driving. Believe me, I've tried. And I also noticed that sometimes after you wash the car and you let it sit for a while, the brakes squeak for the first mile or so. I'm not quite sure why that is. Despite some of these everyday inconveniences, I still consider the C8 to be a decent daily driver. So this love affair is still going strong, and our happily ever after is under no threat. Even though I do plan to buy a new daily driver in the not too distant future. Not because I can't live with the C8, but instead to take some of the workload off of it to help preserve its future. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.